Problem number 5 is a combination between two rules. The first rule is the Pups rule, and the second rule is Kranz Island. So let's go ahead and review those two rules and then get the right answer here. All right, so the first rule is the Pups rule, okay? And so we have an apostrophe that looks like a little miniature name tag, all right? We could either put the apostrophe here on the left of the S, or we could put it here on the right of the S, okay? If you put it right here, that tells you that what's to the left is going to be singular. If you put it here to the right of the S, then you would look to the left of the apostrophe and see that you have P-U-P-S, which means plural. So it's a difference between singular and plural. If we're on the left of the S, it's singular, pup. And if it's on the right, that means it's pups, plural. All right, plural versus singular. Then the word that's in question with the apostrophe, just to the right of that, would be the thing that's being possessed or ownership. Okay, remember, a mini name tag tells everybody that there's ownership. All right, so let's say that we have the apostrophe or mini name tag on the left side of the S, and I come over here and I say on the right side of the word in question, pups, I say pup's tail. All right, if we put the apostrophe on the left of the S, it would be one pup with possession or ownership of its own tail. All right, if we move that over to the right side of the S, you see that now we have plural pups, and plural pups own one tail. That's not possible because plural puppies have to have plural tails, so we have to make it match. So remember, the pups rule, the mini name tag represents possession or ownership. All right, the last thing that we will say about the pups rule is this, that sometimes we have to water down possession or ownership, and we have to say a close association or attachment, okay? In this particular case, when we use the pups and the tail or tails, it's real easy to say a pup does own its own tail. Multiple pups do own their own tails. There is possession there. But what if I say, Jim's friends, okay? So we have this, Jim's friends. Does Jim own or possess his own friends? The answer on that is definitely no. I don't own my own friends. So there's a close association or attachment to what comes to the right of the word that has the apostrophe. It's a close association or an attachment. These are Jim's friends, not mine. So there is possession. There is a close association. So remember, it's ownership, possession, but also in some cases, it's going to be a close association or an attachment. So do add this into your definition of the pups rule, okay? That's the first thing. So when we come over here and look here, we say Will's father. Does Will own his own father? The answer is no. Does he possess his own father? I hope not. Is there a close association between Will and his father as opposed to me and his father? Is it my father or Will's father? It's Will's father. So there is going to be that special attachment or close association. So we will use the pups rule on this one with the apostrophe. So that means that these two answer choices go away. All right, makes sense? Two answer choices that we have left are no comma after although or a comma after although. That goes back to Kranz Island. Kranz Island is a little mini island sitting in the middle of the ocean, if you watch that movie, and it's not connected to this landmass on the left or the right. It's isolated. That represents as an analogous between a comma on both sides. So the word that you have, that's a structural clue like although, however, for instance, for example, those words are going to be isolated by commas or some type of a punctuation, okay? So here you see that there's no comma after although. So that would tell you that answer choice A is wrong. Wait, professor, I thought you said commas. Here we don't have a comma on the left of the word although. But over here you do see that we have a period, okay? So a period will also isolate. It could be a period and then a comma that isolates this word although. All right. Remember, when in doubt, if you're asked and you see two choices, a comma or a period and a comma, or two commas, and you say the word like however, remember, if you use the two commas, that's still going to make this one long sentence. And according to the razor blade, this choice would make it two sentences, shorter and simpler. This would be the preferential one as long as you have a sentence on the first part of the period and then continuing on. That's also a complete independent or sentence. In this case, problem number 5, the correct answer is B. Problem number 7 is a Formula B rearranger, and what we have to do is rearrange the sentences in this paragraph. Now the problem with this is this paragraph starts on this page here at the top, so we're going to have to go back and read the previous page to see what's going on. Number 1. Number 2, you're going to see here that sentence number 1 starts with eventually. Now, that's a pirate flag telling you that something happened a little bit later down the road. So that's probably not the best thing to start off with in your topic sentence. So let's do this. Let's go back and take a look at the previous paragraph. Here's sentence number 1, sentence 2, and sentence 3 is down over here. Let's go ahead and look at the previous paragraph to see what they're talking about. Okay, so when we do that, we come back over here and see on the previous page, page 2, the topic sentence here talks about to achieve success, Will Rogers had to ride a rough trail. His son of a Cherokee rancher, Will spent his early days working on his father's cattle ranch. Okay, so this paragraph talks about Will Rogers back in the olden days when his father had a ranch and taught him about being a rancher. All right, now when we come back over here, you see it would make sense to go from the previous paragraph talking about his father and ranching to go right into the next sentence. So here it says, eventually he became a success in New York. Well, see how that doesn't really transition from cattle rancher and his father. And then sentence number 2, it says, although Will's father wanted his son to stay on the family ranch, you see father and ranch, that would transition better from the previous paragraph. So I like sentence 2 better. Here, this New York thing seems like it's just jumping a little bit too far. Let's go ahead and look at sentence number 3. Sentence 3, it says, joining a Wild West show, he circled the globe and began a career on stage performing rope tricks. Well, that doesn't transition from the previous paragraph on page 2. Page 2, once again, was about his father and being a rancher. Here, paragraph, sentence number 3 in this paragraph, although Will's father wanted him to stay on the ranch, Will wanted to experience other ways of life. I like sentence 2 better, and that's going to give you the only answer choice here with answer choice C for problem 7. Remember, the trap on this test here is kids are lazy to look back at the previous paragraph on the previous page. 7C. Problem number 8, if you got it wrong, again, it's the PUPS rule. So once again, you see this reappearing from problem number 5. Quick review with the PUPS rule, P-U-P-S. We are going to put a space here. There's 2 options. You could put an apostrophe here on the left of the S, or you could put it on the right of the S. Okay? If you put it on the left of the S, that would put it right here. So you just simply look to the left of the apostrophe and you see that you have pup, which is singular. If you put the apostrophe here on the right of the S and then you look to the left, you see that you have pups. That's plural. So to the left of the S is singular and to the right of the S is plural. That's the first thing. Okay. The second thing is what comes to the right of the word that has the little mini name tag apostrophe is going to be the thing that's in possession. Now we have to water this down because we said in the last problem that there's 3 ways to look at this. So if I go ahead and just say ear, all right, first thing that we do is we just start with the left, put the mini name tag to the left of the S. That would mean pup with possession of the ear. Does a pup own or possess its own ear? The answer is yes. Okay. Now, if we put the apostrophe or mini name tag to the right of the S, you see that we have plural pups. Do plural pups own or possess one ear? No. You see that that's wrong, and you're going to have to change this up here either to an S on the back end, or you're going to have to switch where the apostrophe is. Do multiple pups own or possess their own ears? The answer would be yes on that one. All right. So that's the first thing, quick review on that. Now, what we said for number one was we said that there was possession. The second thing that we did is we used a Scooby-Doo to restate the same thing in different vocabulary, and we said ownership, possession or ownership. Does the pup own or possess its own ear? The answer is yes, yes. Now, what we have to do with the pups rule is we have to add in another Scooby-Doo that's going to help us. It's called a close association or an attachment. Okay, so for example, in the previous problem, we said Jimmy's father. Okay, does Jimmy own or possess his own father? The answer is no. But when we add in our new Scooby-Doo definition, a close association, you can see that there is a close association between Jimmy and his father, so there will be an apostrophe S. All right, because it's Jimmy's father, not my father. Does that make sense? So there's a close association or an attachment there somewhere. Okay, so let's jump on in and see. First thing we do is we come over here and we see that we've got an apostrophe here in G, and we've got an apostrophe here in H. What I do is I just simply look to the right and ask myself, is there a close association or an attachment? Is it today's world, or is it yesterday's world, or is it tomorrow's world? There's a close association and an attachment to it. It's saying today's world, so we do need an apostrophe S, okay? So where do we put the apostrophe? Well, if we put it here in G, we simply look to the left, and it's today, which is one day. And if we put it here, it's 2 days, it's plural. Well, obviously day is singular and not plural, so we know that the answer on this one is going to be G. Remember, keep in mind that we're using Scooby-Doo, saying the same thing, but using different vocabulary words: possession, ownership, close association, or attachment when we're using the PUPS rule with apostrophe S's. An apostrophe S looks like a mini name tag, which tells you that there's ownership, possession, and now with our new vocabulary, close association or attachment. G for 8. Problem number 9 is a tricky problem. We're going to solve this problem with mummy wedges. All right, so mummy wedges you learned in the movie, Curse of the Mummy Wedges. We have 3 mummy wedges we learned of, in, and with. Those are the 3 main mummy wedges that you'll come into. That's not the full list, but that's the main 3. All right, mummy wedges present non-essential information. You're going to see that we will have on the left of a mummy wedge, you will have a noun, and on the right of a mummy wedge, you will have a verb. Okay? Mummy wedges start bits of information that are non-essential. Okay? So let's say I come back over here and I say on the left here, my noun is Jimmy. And then I say the verb is fishing. All right, Jimmy is fishing. All right, let's start with mummy wedge number 1. In. Jimmy in a flannel shirt is fishing. Okay, in a flannel shirt is non-essential information that can be crossed out. But however, it does give you like a little mini definition of the word that comes right before it, which is our noun. See that? Jimmy in a flannel shirt is fishing. Mummy wedge number 2. Of. Jimmy of Plymouth is fishing. Of Plymouth is a piece of non-essential information that can be crossed out, and when we do that, we have the noun and the verb next to each other. Jimmy is fishing. Of Plymouth gives me a little mini definition of the word right before it. Once again, is the noun. Okay, with. Jimmy with sunglasses is fishing. With is a mummy wedge. With sunglasses is our extra bit of information. We can cross it out. With sunglasses. That's like a little bit of a mini definition that gives you of what comes right before it, which is Jimmy, which is our noun. So, in essence, A mummy wedge will give you a mini definition of the word right before it, which usually is going to be a noun. See that? All right. So here we are for problem number 9. You see in problem number 9, letter A has the word of, and letter D has the word of. So is this of probably became, is that a mini definition of the word that comes right before it? And is the word right before it a noun? Ask yourself, that's not a noun. So both of those choices can be crossed out, all right? When you do that, now you simply just convert over to your ears, read them, see which one sounds a little bit better between B and C. In today's world, Will Rogers would have probably became a talk show host, or in today's world, Will Rogers would have probably become a talk show host. Sounds a little bit better. Problem number 9, the correct answer is C. We're going to use mummy wedges, kids. Don't forget, mummy wedges present a bit of information that's non-essential that we can cross out. What that bit of information really does is give you like a mini definition of the word right before it, which is a noun. Problem number 12 is a really tricky problem because if you look here, this sentence is 4 lines of text. So what we're going to do, if you haven't watched this movie, I highly recommend you watch it. It's called The Mystery of the Precariously Propped Prunes at Harvard. It's one of some kids' favorite movies. My niece is in that movie and she plays the old lady. So it's kind of a fun movie. Lots of nonsense going on in that movie. So what this movie talks about is pruning. The technique of pruning means cutting stuff out and throwing away the junk. If you were to prune the tree in your front yard, you would see that you cut off the dead branches and simply throw them away. So what we do is we look at this sentence here and we trace in where that punctuation is. There's a comma after gradually, and there's a comma here after philosopher. The second thing that we do is we look and see if we have any mummy wedges of, and then over here we have of again. And then down over here there's going to be a comma in the underlined portion. Okay, pruning means to cut out dependent clauses at the front, at the back, and mummy wedges in the middle. And when you do that, just like a tree, you will still have a healthy tree when you cut off the dead branches. Here you will still have your healthy sentence, which is an independent clause. So here, gradually, that's a dependent clause. We can cross that out, okay? Of homespun sage and philosopher, that could be crossed out, okay? And then of the kindly old captain. And then this is going to be a dependent clause at the end. All right, now spot check to still make sure you have a live tree, just like you have a live sentence. He gradually grew into the role, much like that captain he played in his last film. You see that that's a complete sentence. Now, once we prune this out, when you look at your answer choices, we're going to start seeing where do we need our punctuation. Would you put a comma in here? Does that still make an independent clause and then this is a dependent clause? He played in his last film. That's an independent clause, so that's going to violate it here. So you see that anytime you put captain in here with a comma, that's going to be wrong. So what's the difference between F and J? Here there's nothing in J, and in answer choice F, it looks like captain he played in the last film. With a comma here, and here there's nothing. That means this would extend out, and this one right here would be a dependent clause. So let's spot check that. Here you're going to see that this is a dependent clause, so the answer is going to be answer choice F for problem number 12. Problem 40, when you glance at the answer choices here, you see that we have ly endings on some of the words. Let's do a quick review. This is what's called an adverb. Okay, an adverb is exactly that. It adds to the verb. A verb is going to be your action word. All right. So, beginning of the sentence is up here, and here's our underlined portion here. Let's go ahead and read the sentence. My grandmother can talk football as fluently and confidently or whatever. All right, so here we go. We answer the question by simply labeling this. Here's our noun, grandmother, and what can the grandmother do for the action, the verb? The verb here is going to be talk. All right, so you have to ask yourself, these words right here or word right here, Do they modify the verb talk? Does talk modify fluently? Yes. Does confidently modify talk? Yes. So the correct answer on this one is going to be F, no change, both ly endings. You're going to notice that it's an ly ending for both of them because we have the word and. So that means we have two things that are modifying the word talk, which is our verb, 40F. Problem 41, when you glance at the answer choices, that's the first thing you should always do. What you see here in the answer choices, we have on the other hand, otherwise, and however. Right away, it's a structural clues problem. Structural clues are going to link two sentences together or two clauses together. You're familiar with the term pirate flag, and that's pretty much exactly what this is. All right, the two clauses or sentences are either going to be the same together or they're going to be opposite. Okay, so I usually use the good stinky rule. That's going to help you. Sometimes you'll have a pirate flag that's going to be together, or sometimes you're going to have it opposite. Okay, so if they're together, that means that the pirate flag will continue in the same direction. If you start positive, pirate flag that's together would continue positive. Okay, a pirate flag that's opposite, or structural clue that is opposite, in this case they're the same thing, you're going to see that the two clauses would go opposite of each other. I like hot dogs, but they are not healthy. So you see how we go positive, I like hot dogs, and not healthy being negative. All right, so right away, first thing you want to do once you identify it's going to be a structural clue, you want to go ahead and look at your answers and just put T for together or O for opposite. However, that's a pirate flag going opposite. Okay. On the other hand, that's opposite. And otherwise is also opposite. Continuing on just with shield, that's just going to be together because you're continuing with the general idea of what we're talking about. Okay. Now, what you do over here, you're going to have to go back. Here's our pirate flag, structural clue. And now we have to go back to the clause before. All right. My grandmother can talk football fluently and confidently. All right. It's a positive. She's talking. When we look on the other side here, it says Korean accent, a veteran 35-year-old quarterback. Okay. When she's talking like a veteran 35-year-old quarterback, that also is positive. So that tells you we have two good stinky rule symbols that are both together. You see that? Talking confidently and a 35-year-old veteran quarterback. Both are going to be good, positive. That means that all the opposites are going to be out. However is out, on the other hand, is out because that's a pirate flag switching you around, and otherwise that is switching you around. The only answer choice that continues on in the same direction is D, shield. 41, structural clues, or we call them pirate flags in reading. Same thing. Problem 44 is called the M&M rule. Let's go over it real quick, and then you're going to see how they're trying to mess you up. Okay, so first of all, here's what you're going to have to know. We're going to have to know he, she, and then you're going to have to know him and her. And then you're going to have to make a decision on if it's who or whom. All right. So the M&M rule, quite easy. If you haven't seen the movie, here's a quick overview. The M&M rule, I made this up when a friend of mine came over and gave me some M&Ms. Threw them on an ACT test, and the M's covered up some of the stuff on the test, and I came to the derivation of this. When you see an M&M on him, that's an M&M, and an M&M on whom. The M's go together, M and M. If you see him, use whom. Okay? Him is a male version, so the female version of him is her. Him and her go together. Him and her, they'll go with whom. Why? Because of the M&M rule. Him goes with whom. M to M. Makes sense? That's why we call it the M&M rule. All right? An easier shortened version of this would be to say, always use who except when you have the word him or her. All right, that's just another way of Scooby-Dooing it around. Now, once you know the rule, when you come over here, you go back into the sentence and you start getting a little bit confused. Here's the beginning of the sentence. All right, let's read it. Instead, her, right away you're thinking this, right? Her is the female version of am, so I'm going to use whom, right? Okay, instead, her loyalties lie with dedicated, hardworking athletes. Team members, blank. Okay, so here, this word here, who or whom, is referring to the teammates. All right? Not her. The teammates who, the teammates whom. All right? You see how they're trying to mess with you? This is just not part of the underlying portion that we're really paying attention to. All right? So remember, we had the M&M rule, him to her, going to whom, or we just flipped it around and said always use who unless you have him or her. All right? So we have team players. Team players always use who. The correct answer is going to be H for problem 44. Please take a quick note on this one, the M&M rule, kids. Problem number 47, it is a tricky problem because there's a bunch of commas here and then also there's a dot comma. Let's start with that. Dot comma is two independent clauses that are related. I like soccer, Jimmy likes football. Soccer and football are both related. Let's start with that one. Answer choice C is going to be putting a dot comma here after hypothesized. So let's read from the beginning of the sentence and stop at hypothesized and label it independent and dependent. In 1637, he correctly hypothesized, that's independent, that rainbows occur when suspended water droplets reflect light. There's another comma there. Well, that is not an independent clause on the back end here. That's going to be a dependent clause. So that doesn't work. Cross that one out. All right, it's an independent, dot comma, and a dependent that doesn't work. All right, now what we'd want to do is we'd come over here and let's take a look at some of the answer choices here. Let's go ahead, start, and work with this one here, okay? So we'll put a comma in after that, all right? Read to the comma and stop, label it. In 1637, he correctly hypothesized that, okay, that's going to be a dependent clause. Now we start reading from rainbows. Rainbows occur when suspended water droplets reflect light, okay? That's an independent. And then you see at the back end here with this fragment here, it says separating it into an arc-shaped spectrum of colors. That is a dependent clause. So far, that works. Let's put a dot by that, okay? If we were to put a comma after hypothesized here, when we read from the beginning of the sentence to hypothesized, in 1637, he correctly hypothesized, independent. Then we have the word that rainbows occur when suspended water droplets and fragments. Okay, so that is a dependent clause. And then here we see a dependent clause in the back. The problem with this answer choice here is the word that. Okay, so you saw that this is a dependent clause. This goes back into Mr. Chung's chin, and if you haven't learned this yet, maybe watch or rewatch the Mr. Chung video. So Mr. Chung's chin is looking like a W, and that W represents the rule which versus that, okay? So this is restrictive and non-restrictive clauses. It's a very tough rule. So basically, if you were just to think in terms of Mr. Chung, you see that the tip of the W right here, if you were to draw a dotted line straight up, you see it falls in between commas, dashes, and brackets. And that's the area we call non-essential information. So we're going to say that instead of restrictive and non-restrictive, we're just going to say that the word which is non-restrictive or non-essential. All right? Non-essential. That means, since they're fighting each other, the word that is going to be essential. So that means it cannot be between commas, brackets, and parentheses, and it cannot be inside a dependent clause. It's got to be inside an independent clause. Okay? So if you put it here, we could actually cross this out, and this still would make sense. In 1637, he correctly hypothesized. So remember, the word that is always going to be part of an essential piece of information, which is an independent. Okay? If that makes any sense. Let me just give you one more thing here. Let's real quick go over this. All right. So if I say something like this, I like soccer, and then I put a comma here, and then it says, which is a sport on a field. Which is a sport on a field is non-essential. It's in the dependent clause part. We can cross it out, and we still have I like soccer. Okay? If I say something like this, I want to play soccer like that guy. Okay? The word that is inside the essential part of the independent, because if I were to cross out that guy, I want to play soccer like that guy. I want to play soccer like. You see how when we cross out the word that, the sentence falls apart. Why? Because it's essential. Remember, when you take away this rule here, the word that is part of the essential clause, and the word which will always be in the dependent clause, which is non-essential. You can cross it out. So which will go between dashes, commas, parentheses, or in the dependent clause, and the word that will always go in the independent. Okay, so that's a problem with answer choice B. We're going to cross that one out. Okay, now we're left with answer choice A here, and answer choice A, there's nothing there. So that means we're going to get rid of all this. Okay, so we would just simply read from the beginning up to the comma at light. In 1637, he correctly hypothesized that rainbows occurred when suspended water droplets reflect light. That's an independent clause, and then there's one comma, and this one comma presents a dependent clause, which gives you more information about the refracted light. That's very simple. It's very straightforward. It's independent, comma, dependent, and that is going to be abandoned boxcar. So we've got two choices that are correct. We have an independent, comma, and a dependent, or we have a dependent, comma, independent, comma, dependent. Number one rule on ACT English grammar. It's going to be razor blade. Simple is best. So think which one is simpler. Two dependent clauses surrounding an independent, or an independent, comma, dependent. The answer is going to be A. Just flat out abandoned boxcar. We don't need all this extra stuff here. A is going to be the correct answer for 47. Please make a note about Mr. Chung's chin, independent, dependent clauses, and the word which versus that. That is essential, which non-essential, kids. Problem number 48, very difficult problem. I'll show you a tricky way of how to answer this question. First things first, when you glance at the answer choices here, you see that we're dealing with commas. Then the beginning of the sentence starts over here with lunar rainbows, and then it continues on over here, but the problem is this. This is an underlined portion that's going to be changed based upon the answer to this question. All right, so what you want to do is you want to do this out of order. I would do 49 first. Okay, so let's get 49 out of the way and then double back to 48. Given all the choices are true, which one best indicates the focus of the paragraph? The focus of the paragraph will come from the topic sentence right here. And a topic sentence is a sentence that's comprised of a noun and a verb. Here's the noun, lunar rainbows. And the verb is there's little known about them. Okay, so when we answer the question over here in 49, we want to use the genius brain: who, what, where, when, why, how. We want to talk about lunar rainbows and why we don't know much. Okay, so answer choice A says, in that way we are like other aspects of the natural world. Is that giving us more information about why there's little known about lunar rainbows? No. B, in the same way, some constellations are more familiar than others. Constellations is off topic. That can be out. Okay. Because they, Scooby-Doo for lunar rainbows, so far so good, are difficult to see. Is that a good reason why there's little known about it? Yeah. Put a dot by it. And D, it says even though given the chance, most people would like to see one. That's off topic. C is the correct answer. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to cross this out because this is not part of the sentence that's in question for 48. Okay, it basically goes from little known right into here with answer choice C. And you'll notice that answer choice C, there's no punctuation in there. So that means when we come and look at our answer choices, we have to just completely forget about this underlined portion. because the correct answer there is C. All right, now let's go back over here. First thing we're going to do is let's check F. F, there is a comma here and a comma here. That's 2 commas. Mr. Chung says non-essential information. We can cross it out because this non-essential information just gives you a mini definition of the word right before. Lunar rainbow, what is it? It's a moon bow. All right, it's non-essential, cross it out. And now let's see if we have a complete sentence. Lunar rainbows are little known because they're difficult to see. All right, that's the correct answer. Mr. Chung on that one. Now you see that you can't get to this answer choice here unless you do problem 49 first and then double back and do 49 after that. So we did 48 and 49 but out of order. Problem 54, it's the ITS rule, quite easy, it's just simple memorization. If you don't know this, please write this down, okay? So it's the 3 different ITS's. Let's start with answer choice G. IT apostrophe S means it is, it's a contraction, it's short, it's kind of slangish, okay? So if you use it, it means it is, all right? So always say it is when you plug in your answers, okay? Answer choice F, it's singular possessive of an animal or an object. And ITS apostrophe is no such thing. Okay, that's the first one. It can be crossed out. Okay, at it is. Okay, so let's plug in the it is to see if they sound correct. When a moon bow appears in front of you, answer choice G, it is center lies. Okay, so that doesn't make any sense when you say it is. When a moon bow appears in front of you, at it is center lies. That doesn't make any sense either. Remember, when you see IT apostrophe S, just say it is. That takes 2 of those choices out. Answer choice H is out because there's no such thing. Quite easy. F, ITS, animal, object, singular, possessive. What is it? A moon bow. It's singular, possessive, and a moon bow is an object. Answer choice F, 54. Please write this down. Problem number 58, if you got this one wrong, first thing you want to do is look at the answer choices here. And you notice that the answer choice here, G, is the shortest. There's 2 words. The rest of the answer choices, J, 3, there's 4 words in H, and then there's 5 words in F, okay? So watching lunar rainbows, simple is best. If you read that sentence and it makes sense, choose the shortest answer. Let's just try G right away. Like solar rainbows, lunar rainbows are easier to find near waterfalls. Correct answer, razor blade. Simple is best. Look at the shortest answers, and if it still makes a complete sentence and it makes sense, shortest is best. Razor blade, 58G. Problem 59 is a vocab question. If you look over here, a couple things that you're going to notice about these vocab questions that say least, not, or except. There's going to be no option that gives you no change. That means the underlying portion is used correctly. Okay, so this is what we call our stock statement. The answer choice is used correctly here, and now we're looking for the one that's least acceptable. So what does that mean? That means this is used correctly, and 3 of the 4 choices here are going to be correct. We're looking for the one that's not. So you have 4 opportunities to find a Scooby-Doo synonym. Here it says witness, okay? You can still witness them, all right? So what is them? I went back up to the previous sentence on page 10 and read the beginning up here. It says moon bows, okay? Were reportedly once common sight over New York and Canada parts of Niagara Falls before they were impossible to see, okay? So we know that we're talking about moon bows. And you can still witness them. You can still see or spot them or whatever. Okay, that's used correctly. Now, we're looking for a synonym for witness or see moon bows. Them, you see, is a hazy pronoun. That's why we had to go back to the previous page. Okay, so we're trying to see which ones are saying the same things. you can still come across. That's the same thing as seeing. Catch a glimpse, that's still seeing. This. Okay, so those are correctly used. We're looking for the one that's not the least acceptable. Keep a watch over or behold. Okay, keep a watch over means you're watching over, kind of like babysitting, and that's not what witness means. Witness means to see him or spot him, come across, see him or spot him. Glimpse, see him or spot him. Behold, see him or spot him. Keep a watch over means to babysit. C is the correct answer for 59 vocab. But make sure you look back at the previous page, kids. Problem 63 is exactly the same as problem 59. It's a vocab problem that talks about the least acceptable. You'll notice that we don't have an option here that says no change. So in 63, what's given here, this is used correctly and is going to be the synonym that we base off of. Okay, so since this is correct, promoting, we're going to look for another word that's the same thing as promoting. It's just a Scooby-Doo synonym. Okay, so promoting, upgrading, promoting, improving, promoting, fostering, promoting, stimulating. Okay, so think, what is a Scooby-Doo synonym? We're looking for the one choice that does not work. Okay, let's read the sentence. It says exchange programs are contributing to their communities and promoting interaction. Okay, so it's saying that it's kind of like making your community better with interactions. Okay, we're promoting interactions. Okay, we're fostering, that says the same thing. Are we upgrading? Are we improving? Are we stimulating? Okay, when you stimulate something, you're going to increase the community interactions. Noun, verb. Okay, so those two are synonyms. Now, are we upgrading the interactions or are we improving? What we're trying to do is increase interactions. So think another way. Is it upgrading or improving? Improving is the same thing as promoting. When you promote something, you improve. The correct answer here that is least acceptable for 63 is going to be answer choice B, upgrading, because that is not a Scooby-Doo synonym, and we're looking for the one that's least acceptable. 63B, it's the same as 59, kids. And finally, problem number 72, when you glance at your answer choices, you got to be able to recognize what rule of grammar it is, okay? If you glance over here, there's a comma and the word and. There's the word and, there's a comma and the word and, okay? When you look at answer choice G and answer choice J, comma and the word and should remind you of the rule right away. That's a fanboys. The most common fanboys is going to be the word and, okay? A fanboys is basically going to be two independent clauses, a comma, and we're going to start the second independent clause with a fanboys here, okay? Independent clause, comma, fanboys, and then you're going to have an independent clause. So you know that a fanboys is an exception to the abandoned boxcar, independent and dependent. Also, some kids like to remember and memorize it as the same thing as a dot comma. It's two independents. Okay, let's get started with the fanboys. Simply place in your comma and then read from the beginning to the comma and label it independent or dependent. Service opportunities range between home repair. Okay, so that is an independent clause. Now we have to spot check to make sure that the rest of that is an independent clause. What I do is I put my finger over the fanboys so I don't get distracted by it, okay? So forget about the word and then just start reading. Meal preparation to ride share and reading aloud. You see that that's a dependent clause. Don't let the fanboys get in your way to kind of mess you up. Just put your finger over it. Right away, you know, because of that, answer choice G is out because the second part here is a dependent clause. That's out. And here, the second part here is going to be our dependent clause. That doesn't work. Now we're left with answer choice F or answer choice H. Answer choice H has got a dot comma. So what we do is we read from the beginning of the sentence now and see if both parts have an independent clause on it. Service opportunities range between home repair and meal preparation. Now you see that when we stop there, that's an independent. Let's read the second part here, starting with to ride. To ride share and reading aloud. That's a dependent clause, and that's going to violate our dot comma. That means H is going to be the correct answer. This is a combination problem between Fanboys into .com. H is the correct answer on that one. Kids, thanks for watching the video today. We'll see you in 66C Science. Bye for now.